Welcome back to the Boys and Ball podcast. If you like the pod, hit the like button, subscribe. Let's go. All right. As usual, in today's episode, we got Tooty, John Bruce, and our newest addition, the Teletubby son is here, Mr. Dan Trennan. All right.
Teletubby son? Why is he the Teletubby son?
He's the son from Teletubbies. I don't know what to tell you.
And what? Don't address me as John Luce, you weirdo.
Sorry, John Michael.
No, get out of here. Kill yourself.
That is your first name. I don't know why you're getting upset.
I hate white people.
All right. College basketball, we had another upset weekend. I think the biggest upset was Purdue. I mean,
yeah.
Mr. Bruce, what happened in this Purdue game?
Dude, I won't even lie to you. Whenever I, looked at some of the highlights and checked out the box score and stuff and saw some of the plays that were made, dude, Purdue just could not stop turning the ball over, at all. It was actually disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, with 3 minutes to go and 3.5 minutes to go in this game, Purdue had a 50-55 lead, and Northwestern just went on this huge run the last 3 minutes. Held Purdue to 3 points, ripped off 14 of their own. Late comeback surge win. But like you said, Bruce, the biggest thing in this game was they held Edey to, he only had 24 in this game, but it was the 6 turnovers from arguably the best player in college basketball.
Yeah, you can't win games if you're going to be turning the ball over that much. Even as an individual player, even though Edey plays very, very well, usually he's a consistent ball player. But if you're going to turn the ball over that much as an individual in a game, and then also the team is turning the ball over just as much, you can't mount any sort of offense and expect to be able to hang on to a lead in a college basketball game where momentum is one of the biggest factors in a college basketball game.
Yeah. Now, is this a spell for disaster for Purdue in the sense that in their last 3 games they're 1-2?
Every team, every now and then. So Purdue's been playing at a pretty decent level of basketball recently. Well, not recently, but they've been playing at a pretty consistent level of basketball through most of the season. And every team hits a skid every now and then. They take a little trip. And tournament's right around the corner. So maybe things like this happen. Maybe some guys are gassed, need to get a little bit more rest, before the tournament coming up and stuff. So there's probably maybe just a end of season type little dip right before the tourney.
Tooty, do you think this spells disaster in the tournament with losing a couple games late?
I am a little bit worried about Purdue. I think that they've played really well all season. Like you said, they have Zach Edey, probably the best player in the country. But kind of losing these late games, especially to a team like Northwestern, who's decent. They're scrappy. They have a good squad over there, but Purdue should have been beating these teams late. They should have their chemistry down. Their team should be pretty much solidified going into the Big Ten tournament and then going into March for March Madness. I could see Purdue maybe getting upset later in the tournament.
I can agree with that. I think the Big Ten is down this year compared to where they normally are.
Mm-hmm.
Teams like Michigan State, even Ohio State, who's been pretty good as the last couple of years, is awful this year. Northwestern is now second in the Big Ten, and they're 9-5 in conference.
Yeah.
So they're the Big Ten is definitely down. So you want to see the number 1 team in the country dominate these games and not fold late.
No, I totally agree.
Now, I think the next, and we can call this an upset. Iowa State went down to Oklahoma State. Now, is Oklahoma State on the rise? That's the big question.
I don't think so. There's enough teams in the Big 12, and the Big 12's deep. So I don't think Oklahoma's on the rise of anything, like maybe going to the Big 12 tournament or anything like that. I just think it was a good, hard-fought win. Big 12, like I just said, is deep. So plenty of those teams can upset anybody. I was just really surprised that Iowa State dropped that game because they've been playing well lately.
Yeah. Bruce, what happened in that game?
Well, OK State really defended the paint in this game. They were blocking so many shots left and right. They were really defending the post, but they also kind of had a little bit of a turnover problem in their own right. But they were getting the ball stolen a whole bunch. There's a whole lot of steals in this game for Iowa. But Oklahoma State was able to hang on to a pretty decent win here. It's kind of important going in forward, like going into the Big 12 tournament, because of what Tooty just said. All the teams are so deep, and a lot of them can pretty much give any of the other top schools in some of the other conferences a run, just because of how good the groups are in that division. So
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
I
JT,
think.
I wanted to say something real quick.
Okay, good. Go for it.
So did Iowa State get into foul trouble again in this game? Because like I've watched the West Virginia game where they played where they lost to West Virginia, and Iowa State got them. Well, all their top players got themselves into foul trouble, and you saw them start to struggle. Scoring wise towards the end of the game. That's why they end up losing to West Virginia. So
Yeah.
is this just a trend for Iowa State? Like they're just I get they're from what the announcer said that they're a rougher team, but if they're consistently getting in foul trouble, how's that going to play out for Iowa? Come conference time, where the refs are probably a lot tighter on it, and especially it always seems to be it's their top three guys who are consistently at four fouls going into 10 minutes left in the second.
I think actually basketball is kind of different from like where in football normally you see the reffing
Get tighter.
where in basketball it feels like the reffing gets looser as you get later in the year.
Okay.
They let guys play more for the most part. Now if games start getting out of hand, you start seeing the game get a little chippy. They'll try to handle that the best they can, but when you start getting into the playoffs for college basketball and for the NBA, the reffing really takes a step back, and you don't see as many like ticky tack foul calls, and they just let players play.
Right.
We're gonna see who's gonna win this game, best player on best player, and you don't really see too many guys fouling out like that and like tournament time or in that, but it is bad for Iowa State. Like two of their guards fouled out in this game.
Okay, yeah, they fouled out again. All right. Yeah, because like I said, against the West Virginia game, I think they had three players fouled out. They were literally going deep into that bench.
Yeah, I mean they only played 8, so my guess, like I didn't watch the game. My guess on that is 2 of them fouled out late, but you're still in the area to be able to foul out, and you want to see especially your guards. You don't want to see them picking up a bunch of fouls like that.
All right.
But I do think Oklahoma State is on the rise. You look at this team; they did struggle in the middle stretch of the season, where they had like 3 straight games where they lost to Texas, Kansas State, and Baylor. But out of their last 8 games, they're 7-1, and that's wins over Iowa State. No, they would have lost to Texas. They beat Iowa State twice, Oklahoma twice. They beat TCU and Texas Tech. Now, a couple of those teams are on the bottom of that conference, but the win at Iowa State and at home and the win against TCU are pretty good wins there. And I think if they're able to make it through the rest of this schedule with a good record, watch out for them in Big 12 tournament play, because their next 6 games are home against Kansas, at TCU, at West Virginia, home against Kansas State, home against Baylor, and at Texas Tech. If they can go 4-2 in this stretch, this is a team that is heating up and they're on the rise.
Is this a team you think that can win that many games on the road?
I mean, so they've already beaten TCU, and in that game.
When was that game?
What?
When did they play TCU?
Box score on that was the 4th, so 9 days ago.
I wonder if Mike Miles, their guard, was playing for TCU, because TCU's been slipping ever since he's been out.
No, he was not on the.
Yeah, ever since he got hurt, they've been struggling.
Okay, well, either way, I mean TCU is still ranked, so I mean they're still up there, 19-6 on the year. So, but I think that stretch of 5 straight teams that, I mean, West Virginia's no pushover. They're going to fight and battle with you every night. I don't think they're the best team in the Big 12 or competing for the best team in the Big 12, but if you don't come to play against West Virginia, they will take you down.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Another big upset and a team you could argue, just like Purdue is starting to slip. This Missouri-Tennessee game was wild.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, can we get a little breakdown there?
The Missouri-Tennessee game?
Yeah.
Dude, it was a loss of the buzzer. It was a good game played by two teams that obviously showed up to play. Kobe Brown, he kind of balled out. Tyreek Key, he played real well. He had a double-double. He was 23 and 26.
Okay.
Ziegler got a double-double. He was 11 and 10. Like, you know, both of these teams came out and played. They were distributing the ball well. Everyone was maximizing the most of their opportunities. But you know, sometimes it really hurts to lose these close games, and sometimes you just lose at the buzzer. Even though both teams came out there and they played a really good basketball game, someone's got to lose, and this was definitely a good one to watch.
Yeah, I think this is my issue with Tennessee, though. I don't feel like this is a team that's going to make a run to the tournament. I think they're going to be a top 3 seed in the tournament, but I don't see this team going extremely far unless they really heat up in this late stretch of the season. They're dropping some games as of late, 1-3 in their last 4.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you're playing Missouri at home, this isn't a Missouri team that is, you know, playing lights out this year. This is a game you have to win, and to drop it at home, I think, is just a really bad look.
I think one of the big things with Tennessee is you see they have a lot of these big defensive breakdowns. Like, you know, when we watched the Florida game, you know, a couple like last week or something like that, they just this huge stretch where they let a 13-3 run, and you know, and then you know the announcers would talk about how, you know, this seems like, you know, Tennessee just goes on these little pieces where they just don't seem to be playing defense, but you know, they're edging out some wins, but like you said, like I agree with JT, you know, like obviously they're going to be a top 3 team on wherever they're at in the bracket, but you know, I worry about them getting later into to play in the championship.
You can't show up to March Madness and not play defense. If you're not going to play defense during the seeding period, you're not going to show up to March Madness to be able to get away with playing a lackluster type of defense, because all those teams come there to play.
And I think that's the big thing too. Tennessee is accredited as one of the best defensive teams in college basketball, and they're starting to give up these runs now. And it's not like they're losing to Alabama or some of those, like Texas A&M right now, where you're losing to like one of the top SEC teams. You have, like you said, a loss to Florida that's near the bottom of the conference, 500 in conference, 13-12 on the year. You have a loss to Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt, who again is 6-6 in conference, 13-12 on the year. So you're dropping games to teams that you have no business dropping games to. And I think that's where the struggle comes in, because, you know, you lost those 3 games, you know, including the Missouri game. And then you did beat Auburn at home, but you won 46-43. It was a very defensive game, very scrappy game. And, you know, I think if you're going to be a team that's going to make a run in the tournament, you gotta win a couple of those games that they've lost recently.
Oh, definitely.
And the last upset, Mr. Dan, the
I don't wanna
team
talk about
you've been
that.
riding
I don't want to talk
all
about it.
year, Providence.
I
Providence
don't-
goes down to St. John's. Now, Mr. Bruce, play-by-play, what happened in this Providence game?
I will not lie to you. Cut this. I didn't get to this one.
Okay. Well, Dan, get into one of your bandwagon teams, Providence. This team you've been riding all year, they just dropped to St. John's. I mean, it was at St. John's, but this Providence team finally got ranked top 25. They're starting to climb. You're like, okay, they're gaining traction. And then once again, you can only guarantee a win for Providence at home right now. They went
Yeah,
on the road, dropped to a team that they have no business dropping a game to. St. John's is 5-10 in conference play in the Big East and 15-11 on the year. This is a game Providence has to win. And I think this spells disaster for Providence in the tournament because you don't get to play at home in the tournament.
I think this is a game I definitely overlooked whenever I was, looking towards, like seeing how Providence was due for the rest. Like, it was not a team. I was like, okay, like, that's an easy win for Providence. Like, they should have secured it. But like you said, it just seemed like they just cannot play on the road. And if they're going to have to go into the tournament playing on the road consistently, I could see them as a first or second round exit, depending on where they get seated.
I think this is a team that's going to make it as probably a 6 seed, and I could see this as a one of those 6-11 matchups that you're going to get a team like Syracuse in years past. Now I don't think Syracuse necessarily is going to make the tournament this year, but just calling it how I see it.
That
But
would hurt Tooty's soul right there. That would hurt
I'm
Tooty's
just-
soul.
JT, don't be a liar.
Syracuse has made some crazy runs as the 11th seed, and Andrew can back that up.
I
So
believe you.
yeah,
I believe you, Syracuse. You can do it.
so
Yeah.
I think this is going to be another matchup where you get, a team that started out the year really slow, turned it on absolutely late, makes it into the tournament as an 11 seed, is going to take out Providence in the first round.
Yeah.
That or they're going to get matched up with like the number 2 team, in their bracket, playing at their stadium and, lose right then and there.
Well, it's possible, but I don't know. I think Providence might struggle even in the Big East tournament. I think it's going to be a tough one. Creighton's come
We'll see
on.
about that.
Creighton's
Oh,
come on hot as of late, and UConn's working at turning their year around after the middle of their season was horrendous. But Tooty, let's jump into your mid majors.
Okay. All
Your
right.
teams from last week
Yeah.
started out Akron.
Well, with Akron, I didn't do too. Honestly, all my picks, I didn't do too well. So Akron lost to Toledo in Ohio. Pretty much the Toledo game, they just seemed outmatched from the start. I don't think they really got in within 10 points until late into the game. And it was at home. It's just tough to play, I guess, that type of basketball. Toledo's been good all year. They're deeper than Akron. Akron's really relying on that starting 5, and I think Toledo just ran them out the gym. Against Ohio, I was kind of surprised about that loss, even though Ohio's played well. I just thought that Akron was a much better team, but I think the end of their stretch, other than they have to play at Kent State at the end of the season, Ball State, and then they have to play at Toledo. So those are 3 tough games. But Buffalo and Eastern
Those are the 3
Michigan,
teams ahead of them in the conference too. They're down to 4th place in the MAC now.
Yeah. So I mean, but against Buffalo and Eastern Michigan and then Western Michigan, those should be easy games to win.
Dude, Eastern Michigan's so bad. How do you have a 5-star who was one of the highly touted recruits in all of college basketball, very recently in Amani Bates, and he sucks.
Yeah, he's not that. He's just a bucket getter, and that's really all he does. He doesn't play that much of defense. He's not making anybody else around him better, facilitating. He
doesn't rebound well. He just
doesn't rebound for his position. So
he's a 6'11" center power forward. Yeah, he can score, but he doesn't get assists, he doesn't get rebounds, and he doesn't play defense.
Yeah. Well, he's more of like a small forward type of guy. He's like a wing.
Okay.
Yeah, he plays on the perimeter. But anyways, yeah, I mean, he doesn't rebound for his position well at all. Which is, I mean, you got to do that at the NBA level if you're 6'9", 6'10".
Yeah. So we got through Akron. The next
we got
play,
Akron. Who you want next? Who you want next?
Youngstown State.
Okay, perfect. I think they had Northern Kentucky, and then IPFW.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they beat Northern Kentucky. We knew that, and then they had IPFW, and they played Cleveland State. So, Northern Kentucky, they've been struggling late in the season. That was a team that I liked in the beginning of the year, and they've been dropping some games. So I was happy to see Youngstown State just kind of take care of business there. And then IPFW, at IPFW, I think we talked about how, they're a team
tough place to play.
Yeah, tough place to play. They're just they're pretty consistent every year. I feel like it's been a while since they had a losing record.
Yeah, they're never good. Like they're never like the best team in their conference, but they're never the worst. And it doesn't matter who comes into that gym, you're not gonna have fun.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was a really good win for them. And then I was just super surprised at Cleveland State. They dropped it 81-78. That puzzled me. And they were down. I followed the game. I didn't watch the whole game, but they were down pretty much the whole game, just kind of trailing them. And then it kind of went back and forth, and then Cleveland State just pulled it out at the end.
Took over in that last 3 minutes. Yeah, just pulled it out.
Yeah, it's just, but they have to play Milwaukee at home. That's going to be a tough matchup, but I'm so glad it's at home because I have the confidence that they would probably take care of business there. And then they got Green Bay, Robert Morris, and Ooey Pooey, IUPUI.
IUPUI sucks.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about that last 3-game stretch. But if they can get a big win against Milwaukee at home, I mean, they should just win out. That'd be a good betting team for sure.
Yeah, when I looked at this Youngstown State's schedule, I didn't think it would be the Cleveland State game that they would lose to. I thought it would be Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that 3-game stretch right there, at Purdue for Fort Wayne, and then at Cleveland State, back-to-back games. That's tough.
That's tough.
It's tough in that conference, and then to have to go, Milwaukee. Well, Milwaukee comes to you, but having Milwaukee at home in that 3rd-game stretch, that's a tough 3-game stretch right there. And I didn't expect them to survive all 3 games.
Yeah,
but I think they'll bounce back against Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think they have a really good chance to win the last 4 games of the season, and that'd be a really, really good season for the Penguins.
Yeah, that will put them at 24-7. I think that's, almost teetering on a lock for the tournament, even if they, end up dropping in their conference tournament at some point. I think if you can go 24-7 and then, lose in the semifinals or finals of your conference tournament, I think they're a lock.
Yeah, it just depends on where the rest of the country shapes up, but yeah, we'll see.
Your next team, Eastern Kentucky, the D2 to D1 story.
Yeah. They I think when we recorded our last pod, they were going to play Kennesaw State the next game. So they beat Kennesaw State at home. All right, that was a fun game to watch. And then they had Queens and Liberty next. And I think we talked about how they would probably split one of those because it was at Queens and at Liberty. I really thought they were going to lose the Queens game.
Queens, yeah.
Yeah, that was like my lock. I was like, I think they can beat Liberty. And it was just the total reverse. They beat Queens and then lost to Liberty. And this is once again another one of these games where they just really weren't in the game at all. I don't think they ever had a chance against Liberty. Liberty was up. I correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they were up at halftime, and Eastern Kentucky just trailed the whole game. That's a tough place to play. Liberty has a good fan base, and they've been pretty consistent at basketball for the last couple of years. So,
yeah, they were up 3 at halftime, and then about midway through the second, they just jumped out to that 10-point lead, and it was over from there. They never caught back up.
Yeah.
I think they had it up to almost 20 at one point, and then it got taken back down to 10, and that's where it ended. But
yeah, for sure.
I mean, Liberty's in control of that conference right now. The Atlantic Sun Conference is. I mean, Eastern Kentucky still has a shot, but I think they have to win their conference tournament if they're going to make it in.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Especially out of that conference, they would have to win out. I think in terms of if for any of the viewers that like placing bets, they got Central Arkansas, North Alabama, North Florida, and at Jacksonville. The North Alabama and the Jacksonville game, those lines would probably be closer. So I would like to take them, and I think they can win out. So just as far as bets, I would take against Northern Alabama and Jacksonville, and then North Florida and Central Arkansas, they should be pretty heavily favored. So if you want to throw that in, then or take the spread, might as well. But I think they're going to have a nice little 4-game winning streak at the end of the season.
Yeah, North Alabama is the only team out of their last 4 games that has a winning record in conference, and even though they have a winning record in conference, they're still 16-11 on the year for North Alabama. So this is time to get hot, rip off
Yeah.
these 4 games, get into your tournament, and make something happen.
Yeah, because anything can happen. And then, plus, if you finish your season 21-10, or what if they lose 21-11? I mean, that's a good season.
Yeah, good season, but probably not good enough to go to the tournament. Probably
No.
NIT
Yeah.
visit if they don't win their conference.
Even if that, even if it's the NIT, it might even be lower than that because what conference are they in again?
Atlantic Sun.
Yeah.
Okay, so Atlantic Sun they'll definitely probably be in the NIT if they lose late in their conference tournament.
Yeah. That last team on your board, Marshall. Now this team won all their games.
Yep. They just when we recorded the pod, they lost to Louisiana.
Yeah, they
They
just
had-
lost to
yeah.
Louisiana. Then we recorded the next day, and
That's
they
right.
went into playing Coastal Carolina and then Georgia State.
That's right, because I said that they were going to go on a run as well. But yeah, this is another team as far as betting purposes and just looking at the rest of their schedule. They played the last 2 games. They played Coastal and Georgia State, handled them pretty easily, and then down the stretch they're going to play Georgia Southern, Troy, James Madison, Old Dominion. Now it's at James Madison and at Old Dominion, but Marshall's a pretty strong team, so I could see them winning out as well.
I think if they drop one, it's the at James Madison.
Is that a smaller gym?
Hard play.
Solid, a little bit smaller gym. I mean, all these schools have small gyms.
Yeah.
But James Madison's 18-9 on the, so they're having a good year in their own right.
And it's a tough place to play at home, like you always say in these, little conferences. Yeah.
Where I mean, Old Dominion's solid, but they're 16-10 on the year, 8-6. Can they win? Yeah, they're 5th in the conference. James Madison's 4th, but I mean, it's a tough back-to-back road games to end the year. Within a 2-day span.
Yeah.
You get 1 day off and then you play the next game. So I feel like they drop one of them, but I think Marshall's a team to watch out for. I think this is a team that, even if they don't win their conference tournament, has a really good shot at making the tournament.
Yeah, they have pretty. I mean, especially if they win the last 4 games, 25-6. I think they would definitely make it to their championship game in the Sun Belt. So they could get an at-large bid, but again, it just depends on the way the rest of the country shapes up.
Yeah. All right, let's get into your teams for this week. Mid-majors to watch this week.
All right.
Who's number 1?
Well, number 1 right now is Rick Pitino and the Iona Gales. Okay. I watched them beat Niagara the other day. That was a pretty solid win at Niagara, and Niagara really needed to win there to stay kind of climbing in the conference. They've won, their last 5 games, and Rick Pitino has just kind of built a little program at Iona since he left Louisville and was out of coaching for a little bit. They've been really good over the last 4 years since he's been coaching, and they're at the top of their conference. I think them and Ryder, and I can't see them. I can't see them losing that conference. I think Iona is almost a lock to go into the tournament for winning their conference championship.
It's Iona, Ryder, and Siena, and Siena's technically a half game behind, but they're all like Iona and Ryder 11-3, and Siena's 11-4. So
yeah, and I just think they're a complete team. Nelly Jr. Joseph is one of the best players in that conference, and the Walter Clayton Jr. solid guard. They're a complete team, and I can't see any. I mean, they've beaten top teams in their conference, except they dropped one to Siena. But I would just lock in Iona.
Now they do have, we talked about this one of those top teams to end the year. Their last 3 games are home against Siena, then they're home against Maurice, who's not good, and then they're at Ryder.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough end of the season. So, once again, we've been talking about trends and momentum going into the conference tournament. If they win out going into their conference tournament, lock this team to win their conference tournament. They're locked in at that point. They're ready to go. And on top of that, watch for this team to win a couple games in the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of Rick Pitino's best squads, and I just trust the Hall of Fame coach in this time of the year with the team he likes, and I think he's built something special there.
Okay. All right. Team number 2.
I got Sam Houston State. All right, they're 18-6 in the WAC. They're 4th in the WAC right now. They dropped a recent game to UT Arlington, but they've been playing some good basketball. They like playing all out defense. They get up in your grill, pick you up full court. I actually watched them play Oklahoma State earlier this year that they lost, and they didn't. Obviously, Oklahoma State was a lot better than them, but they never quit in that entire game. Even when they were down by 15, they were just going at them. So this is a team that's really just kind of built for March and built for that type of play. That they're relentless. They pass the ball. They use everybody. Their leader's Quay Grant. I think he averages like 2 steals a game. So this is a good defensive team. They're not going to shoot the lights out, but they play well together, and that full court defense is deadly.
Yeah, I think they have three defining games to end the year to kind of to show me whether they're kind of tournament ready or not. And that's going to be their next game home against UT Arlington.
Yep.
So you got to get that bounce back win. Can't lose to them twice. And then later in the year, they're home against Southern Utah, who's ahead of them in the conference. Got to get that win. And then the team that's honestly been good the past couple of years and come out of this conference, they're at Stephen F. Austin.
I agree. That will be a tough game for them, just in terms of just where this team shapes up. I know that they're 4th in their conference right now. They have 6 losses on the year, but I think they started out this season almost 11-1 or 7-1 or something like that. I know that's kind of a bit of a difference.
7-1, and then they lost to Oklahoma State.
That makes sense. Okay, so they were a strong team out the gate, and I think because of the style of their play, this is just gonna, if they can win these games at home, doesn't seem. I mean, at Stephen A. Austin and Tarleton State, those are not easy matchups, but if they can win the road games, I think their home schedule, just because of just late in the year, they'll be fine. I think Southern Utah will be their hardest matchup.
Yeah, and when you look at their non-conference for Sam Houston, they won at Utah, at Oklahoma.
Yep.
Now, their 2 losses at Nevada and at Oklahoma State, but those weren't they were almost 20-point losses in both those games, but those are not terrible losses as you see that this game.
Those are really good losses.
Yeah. All right, next team. Who we got?
All right, so this one is a team that we've mentioned some other teams in this conference. This is San Jose State. All right. I know they're 15-10. They're 5th in the Mountain West. We've talked about the Mountain West is really, really good this year. But a player on this team that I love is Amari Moore. He's their leader, averaging 17 a game, almost 5 rebounds or 5 assists and 5 rebounds. I think he's going to be one of the NBA players that comes out of the Mountain West, and maybe even a big time player. He's got a lot of talent. He tested the waters last season. In terms of the draft, and I mean, he's a 6'6" combo guard, can pretty much do it all. So I like him, especially down the stretch, helping them win a couple games, but making some noise in the Mountain West tournament. Maybe they're not going to be an NCAA tournament bound team, but look for San Jose State to have some success here.
I think this is. I don't know if I agree with this take here. You look at their next 4 games at UNLV. Home against New Mexico, at Nevada, home against Boise State.
Yep.
They go 2-2 at best in this stretch here. I don't think they make enough noise to really go crazy in the Mountain West. I think the Mountain West top is too heavy. And unfortunately, I think San Jose State is just out of that top teams in the Mountain West.
Okay, so they're 5th right now, right?
6th.
6th.
Yeah.
And they got 6 games left on the season. So
Yeah.
What do you think they'll line up?
I think they probably get wins against Colorado State and Air Force. And I think they beat UNLV, but they lose to New Mexico, Nevada, and Boise State.
So they go 3-3?
Yeah.
Okay, so they'd finish 18-13?
Yeah.
It's not a bad season. That's not a bad season for San Jose State.
It's not a
good
bad
enough to
season,
make
but it's not
something
getting you in the pro. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
not a
you
bad
might be right.
season,
He
bro.
still might go pro. He might be a good pro, but it's not enough for this team to. San Jose State needs to
Think about
all
another
but
guy that was pretty good out of the Mountain West out of Fresno State. He was a 6'6" guy. Grew a couple inches though on his way to the NBA. Paul George.
yeah.
So I think Amari Moore's a very similar type of player. He's got that similar bag.
Lil Toots, what is team number 4?
All right, team number 4. We got to represent the HBCUs. I got Grambling State Tigers. All right, this is my team from the SWAC that I think that if they get into the tournament, I don't think they're going to be a 16 seed. Grambling State, they got a former 4-star fringe 5-star recruit, Cartier Gordon. He transferred in from St. Louis. I remember him back in high school because he was such a big power. He's a power forward. He was such a big player coming out. Even Syracuse was kind of looking at him. So he's just one of those guys that can take over a game. 6'8", 6'9". He's got a good looking stroke. He can kind of play inside out, and he's definitely their best player. He's the type of guy that can take over a game. So I like Grambling State to make some noise, especially they're down right now. Actually, tonight they're losing at half by 1 point to Prairie View A&M.
It was one of the worst teams in the conference.
I'm not worried about that. Prairie View's got a pretty good guard, Will Taylor. I'm not worried about it.
Okay. Now, what about the next game? You know, they're home against Southern, who's right up there in the conference.
Yep, they play at home against Southern. That's going to be their gym's going to be packed out because, like you said, Southern's at the top of the conference. So that's going to be a game that they're going to have to play up to because if they can beat Southern, they play FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, Alabama A&M, and Alabama State at home, and those are
Awful
cakewalk wins.
Awful teams, yeah.
Yeah, they should be. Alabama A&M is the only team I see on there that can give them some trouble, but other than that, they should coast through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, this conference as a whole is pretty weak.
Mm-hmm.
You really look at it. I mean, Alcorn State is the top of the conference right now at 13-11.
Yep.
And they're 10-2 in conference. So like this conference is down. Will probably be the winner of this conference is going to go in as a 15 or 16 seed guaranteed.
Yeah, I think if it's anybody I think if Grambling wins, I think they can be a 15. If it's anybody else, they'll probably get pushed back to a 16. I think Grambling is
16. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Grambling's that strong of a team to become a 15. I mean, they got wins over Colorado and they have a win over Vanderbilt. That's not an easy win, especially coming out of their, the SWAC. But Cartier Gordon, he's the difference maker for them.
Yeah, I think what's going to hold them back to a 16 seed is going to be blowout losses to Virginia Tech, Liberty, and Arizona State.
Those are solid teams.
They're solid teams, but you want to see them play closer. You don't mind the losses, but you want to see them to be closer games, not 80-49 against Arizona State.
I agree.
Like that's not a competitive game. You got smacked.
It just makes it look like it was way worse than it actually was.
I agree.
All right, then young Daniel, do you have a new bandwagon team now that Providence may be fraudulent? I mean, I know you got to jump ship before they start losing a lot of games. So you got a new team, or are you going to stick with them?
I think for right now, we're sticking with them. This wasn't a game I expected them to lose, but I definitely think that there's still a chance they can make a run and possibly win out of the Big East tournament, get a decent seed. I don't know if they win the Big East tournament, but I'd like to see them make a big splash there. So I'm gonna keep riding with Providence. Like I said, they got a bunch of home games upcoming. Especially Xavier at home. So we're excited.
Just banking on home wins, huh?
Yeah, as long as it's not on the road, they're fine.
Okay, all right. And then my squad that I've been backing since the start, Nevada. I'm here for it. They traveled to New Mexico early in the week last week. Game winner, against New Mexico, and then took care of business against Fresno. It was a close game for most of it, but they pulled away late. Did what needs to be done, and I think Jared Lucas needs some praise here. He's a bucket. And in
Yeah.
big games, he has shown up. In that New Mexico game, it was a tight game through and through. They were battling. That was a great game to watch. Jared Lucas put up 28.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bucket, and he shows up when the moments are there. And to me, that is a team ready and a player ready for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they've been playing really well lately.
Bruce, do you have a new bandwagon team? Or you still rolling with Syracuse? You think?
I know that me rolling with Syracuse really makes Tooty's heart really, really happy. Because I mean, you gotta believe in something, right? But
That's right.
I think I'm gonna stick with this Syracuse team. I'll be honest with you. I think the stretch they got coming up, I feel like they could probably get some crucial wins that they need to have to.
Okay, so you think they beat NC State and Duke at home next two
Yeah.
games?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, by 60.
Yeah.
Easy.
By 60.
okay.
Okay. So they just set like an NCAA record and win by 60. Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna hold them to 22 in both games.
All right.
Defense is coming with the straps. Offense is coming with the launch codes. They're getting buckets.
Okay.
76% from three. You heard it here first.
All right. Well, now that we've gotten to the point where we are just saying wild, egregious bullshit. This has been the Boys and Ball podcast. If you like the pod, hit the like button, subscribe. Bow.